Hey, our candidate interviews continue today with Yakima County Commissioner, District 3, Ladon Linde, in the house this morning. Good morning, Ladon. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, Lance.
Yeah.
Good morning, Dave. Good to be here.
Good morning, Ladon. Thanks.
Who is Ladon Linde? Tell us about who you are, maybe some family information. What do you do in the Valley? Just get to know you, yeah.
You bet. So I've been county commissioner for the last 11 months, but before that, there's a lot more to that, obviously. I graduated from Granger High School many years ago. After spending some time at college, meeting my wife, serving a mission in South America, I came back to the Valley, and we've raised our kids ever since. We have 6 children, 10 grandchildren.
6? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Smart kids, well-driven. 3 of them were college athletes. 4 of them were valedictorians at Sunnyside High School. And
Wow.
so they're a high-achieving group. We're very proud of them. I spent over 20 years in business with my parents, co-owner of a dairy farm down in the Lower Valley. So I've had that experience of, among other things, I was the personnel manager. So I did all the hiring, firing, discipline, understanding labor law, all that stuff.
When you were a kid, did you do all the milking and all the 24/7 work of a dairy farm? Yeah.
I started working full-time when I was 13.
Oh, my.
So, yeah.
It's a lot of cow poo, Ladon.
Yeah.
It's a lot
It
of
is.
cow poo.
It is.
That was my
Yeah.
Saturday mornings working in the barn. But I bet you had more cows than we did. What was the size you herd when you were milking?
Well, at one point, we got up as high as 800.
Wow. That's
Oh, my
God.
goodness.
And we had about 300 acres of cropland, alfalfa and corn.
And when you were a kid, they didn't have those milking machines. You were in there.
Well,
by
no,
hand,
we
right? No, I was
we
just
had.
joking.
I'm not that old.
You had to whittle a new stool.
Yeah. Not that old. But after our years in dairy farm, we got to a point where my parents retired, and it was it was a struggle. We sold out, and I went to work for the hospital in Sunnyside. Been there till my appointment as commissioner.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's from that position that you became a commissioner.
Yeah. That's correct. Yeah, I started out in human resources, do my experience working with personnel management.
Sure.
Understanding labor law, involved in labor negotiations with unions. I've had that experience working on contracts, along with other things that go along with human resources. Understanding management, how to train, how to educate. One of the things I'm getting ahead of myself, but one of the things that we're looking at right now on the county level is we're working on a salary survey. Which is we're seeing certain areas in the county where we can't attract quality candidates because of the wage scale. So we're taking a look at that. We want to be able to attract quality candidates, but one of the things that I've talked about in this exchange is that that means if we have more quality candidates, more quality employees, we're probably going to have to be able to get by with fewer employees. There's only so much money to go around. The other thing we want to put in place is performance reviews, which it does not happen everywhere in the county. Now, people in private business, you say, well, we kind of expect that. That's natural, but not there. But you also have to train managers on how do you use that, because there's a right way to use a performance review.
Sure.
So
you can weaponize it, Lance.
Yeah.
I've had it done to me.
Yeah.
In the private sector.
We know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't tell much. I really didn't tell a lot about myself yet, though, did I? We got through the farming and the hospital.
Well, I thought the hospital thing, you could have gone with surgeon. I probably would have done that. If I,
Well, I'm not a surgeon, although for the last several years I was the director of the medical staff office. So I worked a lot with the doctors over the years.
Cool.
If they got a scalpel, it was because of Ladon.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they had to use scissors from home.
Yeah, well, I wasn't that kind of involved with them, but what it was basically when we hired doctors, I was the one who did the vetting. I had to do all the background check, peer references, check with the hospitals, make sure they could actually do what they said we do. They could do, check their malpractice record, licensure, all that stuff, handled their call schedules, their committees, managed all that. So great opportunity, really, to work with doctors for a number of years. A lot of smart people, a lot of sometimes strong-willed people.
Yeah, I'll bet there's a lot of ego there. That's probably not the polite way to say it, but it's
but
so
a lot of good.
you have to know how to negotiate and just navigate through all of that, right?
Yeah.
So why running for? Why did you run for county commissioner? Why are you running again?
Sure, you bet. So really, it boils back, or it goes back to March of 2020. When the pandemic started, to be honest. One of the things that my wife knows is I'm kind of a nut about is that when I see homes getting built, in Sunnyside, we've had a housing shortage for decades, frankly, and it's not that that's unique, but there are never enough homes to go around. And so 2019 was pretty exciting. We were seeing some new apartments going up, some mid-range and even some higher, level homes getting built. housing developments and all. It was exciting to see. And then we get to March 2020, or maybe it was April, and then the governor's emergency mandates come in. And the first thing I noticed, everything shuts down. Yeah. And so, and I'm thinking, now wait a minute. You know, with the little I knew about COVID at that time, I knew enough to know that, okay, if you're building a house, you're outdoors, it's 1 or 2 people at a time typically, and I'm thinking, what's the risk? And the other part that comes up is, okay, public construction was allowed to continue, but not private construction. Well, that's obviously not scientific. And then, you know, and another thing I didn't mention is that I've been involved in leadership in my church for a number of years. Oversaw a congregation of over 400 people, overseen multiple congregations in Yakima County, and that's all volunteer. But the other part of that was, you know, I'm seeing that the pot shops are allowed to stay open, but our churches are closed. You know, I guess one was deemed more essential than the other. But, you know, and then I'm seeing stores like Walmart that were open and big box stores. But my friends that were, you know, had the small businesses where they have, you know, 3 or 4 employees, and they get this little trickle of patients through their door, customers. It's my healthcare background talking, but customers. And I'm thinking, you know, this is not right.
Yeah.
We're hurting people. These cures are worse than the disease. And, you know, being from hospital background, I mean, I know that COVID's real. I've been in those rooms with patients, but we needed a sense of balance. And this overreach by the governor was just something that we couldn't abide. And it's first time in many years that I thought, you know, maybe if the opportunity comes along, I need to look at public office, you know, to see what I can do.
And you jumped in.
I did. I jumped in, and I was fortunate. It was a 2-step process. We got through the Republican Party. The PCOs in the county made me their first choice, and then that was forwarded to the commissioners, and the 2 commissioners at the time chose me to take that spot, and there have been ever since.
And the party's still backing you. Yeah.
We've got the party. Yep. We've got a lot of great endorsements. You know, Representative Bruce Chandler, Jeremy Defoe, Curtis King, Jim Honeyford, along with mayors, and actually just got a call this morning from Dr. Raul Garcia, who is a former candidate for governor, and he's given me his endorsement.
Excellent.
And you know, along with mayors, city councilmen, and women school board members up and down Yakima County, as well as many businesses, ag people, healthcare professionals.
KIT News Time 8:21, talking to Ladon Linde, Yakima County Commissioner and candidate for District 3. Let's talk about pandemic, about the COVID thing. How do you think you and other commissioners handled the pandemic? And how do you feel about the mandates, the governor mandates?
Well, first of all, I have never been a fan of the mandates, and I continue not to be a fan of the mandates. On the vaccine level, and I've been open about the fact that I've had the vaccine, and I encourage people, most people I'll say, to get the vaccine. There are reasons not to. You know, I've got a daughter, for example, who'd, 1, she's had COVID, 2, she's had a heart condition, you know, and I think those are pretty legitimate concerns, and I think we need to have that exception. We need to have those, you know, opportunities to have that conversation with your healthcare provider and make an informed decision. That having been said, you know, with my background in healthcare, I spend a lot of time talking to local doctors because, you know, frankly, with right now between media and social media, you can find an expert to back any opinion you have.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, you really can.
Yeah.
And so I've taken the time to talk with local doctors, and you know, what I'm hearing is a couple things. One is that, you know, there's never been a risk-free vaccine, and this is not risk-free now, but it's as safe as any vaccine that we've had. And so for most people, I think they can feel comfortable. But I also get the fact that with the information out there, people, you know, they have real concerns and sometimes some real fears. And I have been concerned from the vaccine mandate level that we have the real potential to undermine some key portions of our economy. We're talking about healthcare, education, our first responders. So I think it's heavy-handed and the wrong approach.
So you wouldn't be in favor of a county-wide mandate for county employees or anything like that? Yeah.
No.
Okay. Cool.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah. I know that there's been some friction between, you know, the county and the health board.
Oh, sure.
How do you characterize that?
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. First of all, I think the health board is a pretty good example of the fact that I have not been a rubber stamp. Let's talk about and have been willing to fight. First meeting that we had in December of the health board and it was my first meeting for Commissioner McKinney and myself. And the first thing that was, well, one of the first things that was presented to us is that there was a reappointment of 3 of the 7 members. The commissioners are 3 of the 7, and then there are 2 local government representatives and 2 citizen representatives. 3 of them were up for reappointment, not the commissioners. And the administration there of the health district said, well, we just want you to reappoint them. And the thing at the same time was that we had this interim health officer, and they said, we'd like you to approve the contract. And Commissioner McKinney and myself said, well, first of all, what's your normal process for appointment? And 2, on the health officer, what are the terms of the contract? And they couldn't tell us either one.
Wow.
So they didn't start out on a very good foot with me. I'll tell you that. And so we pushed back. And one of the things that's been controversial is that, we have, for our efforts of pushing back, a couple things happened. First of all, after that meeting, the attorneys came forward and said, "Oh, well, what do you know? There's an ordinance in place by the county and the health district, which they actually used in 2018, 2 years earlier, and they followed that process. Why did they not follow it in 2020? Great question, isn't it? But anyway, bringing that to light, we had them go through the process, and frankly, we got a better board today. Okay, we were able to bring Dr. Atterbury, we got Patricia Byers, the mayor of Yakima, and Nyla Duvall, who's a city councilwoman in Toppenish. So it's a more responsive board, one that I think in general, we have good, robust debates. We have long health district meetings, board meetings right now.
I know you do.
Because there's a lot of conversation and debate on these things.
Yeah.
So we have, but that having been said, you're talking about how the county and how the health district is done. Okay, I digress. Another thing that we got for our efforts is we got sued, but that's another story. But we're willing to make that argument. When I was appointed, like 2 days after I was appointed, the governor came back and pushed us back into phase 1. Mm-hmm. Where we had restaurants and health club facilities and others that were pushed back into that idea that you can't dine indoors. You can't, and I remember going to a restaurant in December. It was 2nd Street Grill, right down the street from my office, and talked to the server there, and I said, "How you guys doing?" And he says, "Well, we've got the lights on. We're still able to pay the bills. But a year ago we had 57 employees, and now we have 6.
Jeez.
I mean that's just one restaurant."
And I take it all those people are coming to you asking for you for help.
Well, they
back,
are,
right?
Yeah. They are, and really one of my primary reasons for getting involved really is to go to bat for our businesses, to go to bat for our businesses, schools, and churches. Although we're not in ideal situations, I can say with some satisfaction that right now our businesses are open. We may not be happy about all the conditions, but we don't have any capacity limits. People can dine in or they can take out. We have, for the first time in 18 months, we have all our schools back in person learning, which we had to have. Virtual learning for most of our kids was a disaster.
Yeah, I agree. Agreed.
Yep.
All right, switching gears. You talk to a lot of, I take it you've been door knocking as much as you can in such a large area in the district.
A lot of door knocking, a lot of events.
What are they telling you? What's the number one thing that people are concerned about down in the Lower Valley in your district?
Well, one of the things that comes to light is that there have been a lot of parents that have been concerned about their kids. About being in school. And although some may not be necessarily happy about the conditions they're back in school, they would rather have them be back in school, even if sometimes it means a mask in, rather than being at home. Because when we have, for example, 4th grade, I talked to a 4th grade teacher a few weeks ago. They had this beginning of the year reading assessment for their students, and usually the kids in the class are at 4th grade or late 3rd grade level. And this year, 2nd grade and 1st grade level. Wow. I mean, that's a disaster.
Jeez, yeah.
So now, with that having been said, I still do have some concerns, and I encourage school districts to look for other ways to protect people because, it's not zero risk for students, but it is low risk. It's one of the lower risk places you can be, and so so let's look at other things. Look at the washing. Look at the maybe put plexiglass around the teachers, but the masks, I worry about the fact that kids, as they're learning a language and learning how to speak, how do you do that if you can't see someone else's mouth and those kind of things.
So people concerned about hey, their kids under this COVID thing.
I hear that. I do think people, but on the other hand, you have the other side where people are absolutely panicked about the COVID pandemic. You have that too, and I mean, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. Whereas
that's right.
I mean, you see somewhere where people are they're outdoors and they're walking alone, on the street
With
by
the
themselves
mask
with a
on.
mask on.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they're driving in their cars by
Yeah.
themselves with a mask on. You know,
Yeah.
and so they've been panicked, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know, and the truth is, you know, it's a concern. It's real, but it's not going to kill everybody. It will kill some, and particularly those that might be vulnerable, and we have to take care of those. But we've got to do it with balance and concerns for rights and the needs of our schools, our businesses, and our churches.
Mr. Ladon Linde, our Yakima County Commissioner, we will continue our conversation with you after the bottom of the hour news. Going to be talking to water wells. I know there's been a lot of controversy on water wells, the homelessness and how the county's handling that, gang crime, stuff like that. We'll be talking to Ladon Linde about those things when we get back.
The Ladon Linde, who's not only running, who's also on the job. So he's got two jobs going on at once, and he still squeaks in a little time for us, and we appreciate that this morning.
Yeah.
Mr. Commissioner, thanks.
You bet.
Yeah,
Gotta
let's
be
talk
here.
about wells, water well restrictions. I know that happened before you got on board.
Doesn't mean he still doesn't get to hear the criticism,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do hear it. Yes.
I'm just going to leave it there. Water well restrictions. We all know there was a meeting earlier at the convention center.
Right.
So, I guess people want relief. They want this turned around. I mean, is there any possibility that this policy will be turned around in the future?
Well, I'll tell you, we spent a lot of time since I've been commissioner looking at this.
Yeah, I can
because
imagine.
it has been a hot button issue, and
Yeah.
it's taken some time, and I'm still learning. But this is what I've been able to learn so far. Now, yeah, there was a lawsuit in Whatcom County, but the one that really matters to us is what happened in Kittitas County several years ago when there was there was some very quick rapid development over there, and not only the state but also a environmental group called FutureWise came in and sued Kittitas County, and the result of it was there was a determination that the water was over appropriated, and they were actually seeing the water table drop up there in some areas of Kittitas, and so there was actually, because of those actions, the suit was successful. And Kittitas County sued back, took it back to court and appealed it, and ended up taking it all the way to the Supreme Court and lost. They ended up receiving a $1 million fine by the state, and the moratorium on new wells in unincorporated Kittitas County for about 6 years.
How did the court determine how Kittitas was supposed to have determined, as permits were allowed? What are they, like Kittitas is supposed to go, okay, according to my calculations, if you take X number of gallons of water, you can't build. I mean, did they have some sort of measure system?
I really can't answer that.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. But what I can tell you is that Kittitas was forced into a settlement and dictated to them by the state the terms of the settlement. And it had implications for us because we're all in the same river basin, Yakima River Basin. So following that, Benton County also was sued by this group, FutureWise, and they were forced in and put in terms, terms were imposed upon them due to this suit. I wasn't there at the time, but the Yakima County commissioners at the time felt and heard that they were
They're next.
next,
they were
yeah,
next,
yeah.
because we're part of the same basin.
Yeah.
And so what they decided to do was put something in place so they could preempt that and keep some kind of local control over it.
Rather than have what the court would impose on them as
Exactly.
mitigation or whatever, that would be at least their own decision. And
Yes, exactly. Now, as you mentioned, there was a town hall talking about the issue the other night, and I attended that. And there were citizens that were frustrated, and they had some legitimate concerns. I guess, overall, I would say, here are some of the things that came up. For example, they talked about the fact that right now you can't drill in the Weenass or Atanum areas. This is actually something that I have been aware of. We talked about this as commissioners, and we're actually working on rectifying that. So that's a part of the solution. Other things they talked about, for example, was the idea that there's this clause in there in the ordinance that basically says if you haven't paid your water bill, there's a 60-day notice given and they can foreclose on the property. Well, you know what? They have a right to be offended by that. When everything else is like they give you 3 years. So we're going to change that too. So we're in the middle of actually looking at that ordinance and improving it. Now, can we get to the point where we can just eliminate the thing and do away with? I really don't believe so, because when people ask about what is this system giving them, frankly, what it's giving them is the right to drill a well and pump from it, period. Because what the court determined, and this is established case law now, is that in an unincorporated Yakima County, and this is going to actually impact not just unincorporated areas, but it will impact the cities as well. Not immediately, but it's coming. But what it means is that you can't drill a well in unincorporated Yakima County without being able to prove that it has not impacted senior water rights. So how do you do that? Well, the only way you can do that is give them a senior water right. So what we've done as a county, what we've done as a county is purchased senior water rights, so that we've been able to continue that growth and allow that. So
I want to say Kittitas, did they do that as well?
I don't know exactly what their system
okay.
is.
I think they did.
Yeah,
though.
well, they've had to have something similar.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what it looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
So who do you buy water from? How do you purchase a senior water right?
There was a property that was in the Yakima area just recently that we closed on. That they wanted to convert it to a different use. It was in heavy agricultural use, and so we basically purchased the land and with it the water rights.
Water rights, yeah.
And so we can turn around and use that. We think that'll give us, depending on the rate of growth, another 15 to 20 years. Where we can actually, if someone's going to drill a well in this area, okay.
So they're
we've got a
basically
permit for you, so you can drill.
paying you back for what it cost you to buy the water rights. I mean, is there
Basically, yes. That's basically what it is.
But without that, I mean, it's like you mean this is simplified, and I'm not taking sides here, but without the county's action of some kind, thus being able to continue to build, we'd have the same kind of shutdown that Kittitas endured.
Well,
right?
that was the fear of the board at that time.
That was the potential that they would come and shut you down with a lawsuit.
Exactly.
And that is still the potential.
Well, it is. I mean, it would be the potential if we were to do away with the ordinance. Now that having been said, can we get to a place where we can make everybody happy in that room from the other night? Honestly, I don't think so. But can we make the ordinance better than it is right now?
Yeah.
I do think so.
Yeah.
I really do. And we're going to do that. I mean, we're working on addressing the issues in Weenus and Atanum. We're going to get rid of that ridiculous 60-day foreclosure, rule. And we'll also make sure that when we talk about grandfathering, that we're actually really doing that. I mean, everybody that had a well in place prior to 2018 should be grandfathered and don't have to worry about that meter. And we want to make sure that we're staying true to that. We're willing to, so we've got a draft proposal that we're working on right now, and we certainly will. This is a complaint we heard. When we get something that's closer, we're going to take into mind, into account the things that were presented at that meeting the other night. I mean, and we'll bring it to the public. We're not just going to have a draft meeting. We'll open it up so people have that opportunity here.
Yeah, good.
And because they deserve that.
Question: does the county get a chunk of money for COVID relief, or building back better, or whatever you want to call it? Is there a like the city got what, 24 million, Lance, or something?
Yeah, we have something similar. It's a two-step process. We got about 24 million this year.
All right. We're seeing people talk about art centers and different things, how they're going to spend that money. Could some of that money go to buy a bunch of well rights and meters and stuff, and then sell it back just at cost? So at least.
I don't know. I hadn't thought about that, but it's an idea worth considering. We can have a conversation about that. We'll put it on the list.
All right.
I will tell you this, that our focus right now, we've been very careful about what we want to do with this, because it's a one-time fund.
Yep.
And so I will tell you our primary area of focus, or where we want to go with it at this point, is if we can find ways where we can help, for example, cities or entities in the county, maybe ports, with infrastructure, so they can build more housing, for example, or new economic development. I think that's where we'd like to go. I mean,
Sure.
we're sure, that's a way, frankly, that we can help make housing more affordable if we can put that kind of infrastructure in place.
Yeah.
Because we need that, and it's really interesting. I was named to a state affordable housing advisory board. It's one of the things that I do as commissioner, and it was really interesting as I went to the first meeting, because I came to this conclusion that affordable housing is almost, not quite, but almost code name for government or nonprofit housing.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's a place for that.
Yeah.
But when we talk about affordable housing, we really need to we need to reduce regulation where we can and streamline it so it costs less to build a house. To me, that's making housing more affordable.
Bingo. Yeah.
One of the things that we did earlier this year is we were looking at ways where we had to update an ordinance, and we were talking about the building codes, and people would come with these concerns about, for example, if somebody wants to build a house, that permit's good for 18 months. And well, what if you're a mom and pop and you're doing it on your own? And so we said, fine, let's extend that out to 5 years, you know, and we did that. You know, other little things.
There are things like that that can make a difference.
They do.
Like
And so,
cumulative.
yeah.
You know, Lance was just trying to get some new rocks for his castle the other day, and he. No,
he comes up with this.
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, but along with that, though, at the same time, there was a state mandate because of green energy things that we had to put those in place, and that will add $20,000 to the cost of an average home here.
Ah, jeez.
You know, and there was nothing we could do about it. But why? I mean, there's a place for conservation, but you know, we're in a low-income area. You know, a lot of our people are low-income, and just tell me how that helps the housing.
Yeah, well,
in Yakima County.
That's kind of I mean, I was going to start talking about housing, but I guess then the county's kind of strapped in those ways of providing that, and I take it that you don't believe that it's county taxpayers that should be paying for any kind of
No,
housing.
that's really not the direction we want to go.
Yeah. KIT News Time, 8:55. We're talking to Yakima County Commissioner and Commission candidate Ladon Linde for District 3. Gang crime, homelessness. Do you hear a lot about that?
Yes.
You do.
There's a concern about gangs. There's a concern about safety.
Yeah.
You know, and frankly, the legislature didn't make it any easier this year when it's the court too. I mean, we had the Blake decision, which altered our drug laws, and that's a real concern to me because, frankly, from what I've seen between my time at the hospital and my time as commissioner, I think drug abuse is one of the biggest problems we have in this county.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. I mean, it impacts our prisons. It impacts the homeless situation. That's not the only factor in the homeless issue, but one of the things on the homeless front, I will tell you that we've been working on as a county, is that we have. I went out to see the homeless that we had that were camped out on the Greenway early this spring, and we actually, thanks to some help from code enforcement, the Greenway, and Camp Hope volunteers, we were able to clean 31 tons of garbage out of there, and you just don't believe what you see out there.
I mean, can imagine.
Mind-boggling amount of stolen stuff, drug paraphernalia, evidence of sex trafficking. I mean, it's not a good situation. But we got it all clean, which was great, but then I went back to the commissioners and said, you know what, if we just clean this up again and clean out 30 tons of garbage in a year, we will have failed. So I'm really proud to say that we are actually putting in place, and this has already started, a network, a coalition of property owners along the Yakima River and service organizations in Yakima that'll go up there, and code enforcement will come in. They'll say, you're camping here illegally, you got to get out. We encourage them to seek services like at Camp Hope or Union Gospel Mission and other places. We encourage them to go that way. They've got the choice. We can't force them.
That's right.
But we are going to clean that area up.
Good.
Because they shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to the citizens who want to enjoy the Greenway, which is a jewel of our county.
That's right.
You know,
Yep.
and so it's a start. But we're pushing back, and hopefully we'll be able to continue that and expand that.
Gang crime.
Okay. Gang crime's an issue. One of the things that the sheriffs and the police department through the county have been working with the FBI recently to try to tackle that. Brought them in to partner with us on that, and we've got to fight it. We do, I think, and I've talked to the sheriff about this, and he believes it's something that we can succeed at. We just have to focus on it.
8:57, Ladon. If you had to describe yourself, how would you describe yourself politically?
I'm a conservative Republican. My first vote for president was Ronald Reagan, and very proud of that vote. He was awesome. I just loved his approach. He was pro-America. He was pro-Constitution. He believed in us as a people, and he was optimistic. You know, he was optimistic, and I love that about him. And we knew his beliefs, but and he was good at skewering the Democrats too, the other side. But he would do it with a smile on his face, and where he could find agreement, he would do it. Yeah.
Good.
So
excellent.
Yeah.
And that's it. Thank you for your time. 8:58. Ladon Linde, our Yakima County Commissioner. We give you a chance now, to tell us why people should be voting for you and not your opponent.
As I said early on, you're both really nice people, both with deep passion for this county.
Very much
both,
so.
I think, could do a good job. How do you differentiate? Why vote for Ladon Linde?
I think the thing that I bring to the table is my decades of private business and management experience between my farming career, the hospital, and my time volunteering for my church. And the fact that I'm a certified medical interpreter, I'm bilingual. Those are things that put me in a good position, I think, to lead Yakima County. At the end of the day, Yakima County is an organization that has over 900 employees, and I have the experience in knowing how to work with and manage people departments, budgets, and organizations. You have to be able to know that and know how to motivate people and get the right results, and do things like, for example, put in performance reviews so you have an expectation for your employees. That having been said, most of the county employees are great people, but we can always do better. And I think that experience plays well, and I appreciate the endorsements. I should mention two other people that I don't want to forget, because the Lower Valley Realtors have endorsed me, as well as the Filipino American group. There's a lovely Filipino community in Wapato that came out and endorsed
we know
me.
it.
And,
yeah,
yeah.
excellent.
So
All right.
just thank you to those groups.